Hey, this is Giang Nguyen, and you're listening to the Immi-Wealth Builder podcast, where we celebrate incredible immigrant success stories, share proven strategies, and give you actionable steps to build your wealth, freedom, and a lasting legacy. Let's go get it. Today, we have Christiane Silveira with us. She's an amazing real estate investor. She's a loan officer. She's a private lender. And today, she's going to share with us her journey and also give us tips, things that you can do to actually lend out your money and have your money grow for you completely passively. We work so hard for our money and we really want to make sure that they work hard for us. So with that, I'll pass it over and have her introduce herself. Christiane, take it away.
Yes, hi everybody. So I live in Atlanta. I have two boys, and I'm originally from Brazil. So I came to America because I got married to an American in Brazil. We lived there for a while, and then I came here 25 years later. It's been half of my time in Brazil, half of my time here. And I don't know if you guys feel the same. I don't feel like I'm Brazilian or American. I'm something between.
I relate with that so much.
I've been in real estate. I've done invest in real estate for my entire life here in Atlanta. And then lately, I said I want to do this full time. And I pivoted into my small business. And I said I didn't want to be an agent, a realtor. I don't want to work on the weekends or evenings because that's what I kind of used to do my business before. So I said, have a loan officer. I can talk about numbers. I can talk about deals. So that's what I decided to do. And I became a loan officer 3 years ago. From there, I progressed to private money lender, commercial loans, and everything in between.
Wow, I love that. I love the variety of options that you have grown over the years. So you came here, you got married. How do you start in real estate? You mentioned a little bit about you becoming a real estate agent. Was that how you got started in real estate? And how did that even become a thing?
My parents in Brazil, they were small business owners. We had a bakery. They ran for like 30 years. We had some employees, but they never really grew. And then my dad, all the money that he made, he invested in real estate. So for me, like I used to walk in construction sites, like all the homes that we lived in were brand new because my dad built them. We lived there. So for me, all of the real estate, I did not know the business, but I was familiar with that. So when I moved to the US, I had my own business. And then all the extra money that I had, I said, okay, I'm going to buy my first property. And I house hacked that one. It was a condo. Here in Atlanta, Midtown, for everybody that knows, there's a park called Piedmont. I had a friend living with me. And then from there, I started getting bigger rentals and then moving to the next house that I had and then renting that one that I was living in. And that's how everything started. But I did not want to be a realtor. That's why I decided to be a loan officer.
Got it.
Because loan officer, you kind of pretty much make your own schedule. And if you want to work on the weekends, it's fine. But most people expect you to work office hours. So this is for me with my kids and everything else. So that worked out better for me.
Okay. I love hearing that you had exposure to real estate when you grew up, right? I think as immigrants, sometimes when we're in a new country, it always feels like we started from scratch, but we don't. We actually brought with us all that experience we had before us. And you mentioned that you started first with a business. Can you tell me a little bit more about that business?
So back in 2006, I wanted to have my own business, right? I'm from Brazil. In Brazil, we do waxing and do facials. We get all of this stuff, nails done. Today's not done, but we do the whole thing. So when I came here, I was looking for small places and calling and say, hey, do you guys offer waxing? Do you guys offer, facials? What kind of facials? And then I found this place in Marietta. It's a Brazilian place.
Okay.
And a year later, the lady was going back to Brazil and she said, do you want to buy it? And I said, yes. So I got in with my partner and I said, hey, do you want to do this business with me? He come from Salon experience too. He wanted to have his own business.
Okay.
So we were together at the right time. And I said, okay, let's buy it. So that's how we start out back in 2006.
Wow.
And then 10 years later, we have 10 locations, here around Atlanta. There was one time we have like 40 employees. Really nice.
That's amazing. Wow, I love how resourceful you were.
Just so you know, because I like to let people know,
Yes.
being an entrepreneur
Yes.
and risk, we're always pivoting. I did not know we're going to end up having 10 salons and then franchise a couple of them. So we did not know. So we kind of went with the vision that we wanted to have our own business.
Yeah.
It sounds amazing. And then we built it as we went.
Yep.
Sometimes a lot of people, they want to come in, talk to me and say, hey, so how do you get there? And I said, there's not a map. You
Yeah.
kind of like follow your heart,
Yep.
follow your plan, it's going to take you there.
I love that. I think that's totally a theme. As I talk to a lot of entrepreneur and business owner, what I keep hearing a lot, right? The skill set that make them successful is that they are resourceful. They work with what they have. They're very creative. And just like you said, they work for what is needed immediately right now, right? It's about solving this next problem. And then now we'll grow from there. Okay, now as you grow, there's a next problem, you solve it. And before you know it, there's 10 locations you're franchising. And it all starts from that first phone call that you were just like trying to find a place to get the service. So I really love that. I really want to emphasize how intentional you were about like, hey, not a real estate agent. I want to make sure I can be there for my kids. So the loan officer was a good fit for you. And you also mentioned that you had a skill set for it. You're good with numbers. So that seems like a good fit. Tell me how did that go from there to now becoming a private lender and that growth around there?
I did a couple of, I would say, primary homes, right? But then the interest rate back in 2022, end of 2022, beginning of 2023, start shooting up.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, my business and all my contacts, everything kind of fell through. I started doing some non-QM loans, and that includes DSCR, ground up construction, some hard money lenders. So I started talking with all the investors because I already knew some people, because I was already doing a couple of flips a year. I knew some people that are already doing it, and I was doing their loans, and all of a sudden, because the interest rate went so high, the loans did not work for them. One of the underwriter kicked one out, and I was selling a condo that I have because I was going to invest back then in multifamily, just the way everything works out. And then there was somebody in the group that had told me he does private money lender on the side. So I called him. He sent me the paperwork, like he sent me the promissory note and everything else. I did 2 deals, and I was paid 6 months later. And I was like, wow, this feels really good. I like it, right? And then at the same time, I joined Pace Morby, and they have a mastermind called Gator. In a Gator, you learn a lot of stuff about not usually loans, but they teach you how to lend EMD, do transaction funding, private money lending.
Yeah.
So through that network, I met a lot of other people. And then I started brokering for everybody pretty much. I started doing DSCR loans. I started doing private money lending. I started raising capital, and then investors that have their money in the bank, they want to make better returns. They would say, hey, you can use my money. And then I would propose a deal to them, and then they would make their returns. So I learned everything again as I went. I had no clue. I didn't have a plan. I was just like, okay, for one side, I have the interest rate killing my loan officer business because the normal client was not there looking for homes. People were scared. The people that were buying homes were investors, real estate investors. So I shift my business and worked out really well. 2 years later, besides doing my fix and flip that I do with my partner, we run a community of real estate investors here in Atlanta. Then I do the private money lending. And it's been amazing because especially for us that, want to have, I wouldn't say you have a balance, but with the lending, it's like everybody needs you. And if you do everything right, sometimes you're the only one get paid. Because sometimes the investor doesn't get paid because sometimes the flip takes too long to sell. But anyways, you kind of can set up how much loans you want to do a month. And like for me, it's been amazing. It's another source of income. I love it.
Wow, you touched on so many good points there that I definitely want to pull out. First, I really love what you said about the pivoting, right? Everybody has plan. And what I love to hear is that you were taking action, right? Even though you did not get into multifamily, that actually led you to the private lending. That would not happen if you had not gone out there and pursued the multifamily piece. But what I just want to point out is whatever you're thinking, you may not know that that is the perfect action. And that perfect action doesn't exist. There's no such thing as a perfect action. action, right? But you take that action, you see where that leads you to, and then that will keep leading you down a path that all makes sense down the road, but at the moment it's very hard to see in the future, right? And see how all of these steps you take will lead to where you want to go.
And another thing, multifamily is still my horizon. I've had a good foundation for it. But the most important thing, have I not gone in there and took opportunity and got on the phone, network with people inside multifamily, I would never do my first private money lending deal because sometimes it's not the way right now, but it leads you to something else.
Yes, absolutely. So now talk to me more about the private lending. For people who are listening, the private lending is essentially you have capital. It might be from a sale of a condo that you already had. It might be you just have extra cash in saving from your business. And if your time is already now fully occupied by you running your business, is already fully occupied by you want to spend time with your family and your kids, then there's all this money sitting in the bank earning almost non-existent interest rate. So private lending is when it comes in, right? You are now extending a loan to somebody who's doing fix and flip. It can be an apartment building. It can be just earnest money deposit that they need for a wholesale. It can be a lot of things that they're doing. And so in return, instead of them borrowing from a bank and paying the bank interest, which the bank essentially took your money that you're putting in the bank right there and paying you no interest and lending it out to other people, you're now directly lending it to the people who need it, and you will earn interest out of it. So one thing I do want you to talk to our audience more about is the process. How do you walk from, hey, I have this chunk of cash, walk me through the process of what is needed in order to lend this out. How do I find the lender? How do I vet the borrower? And just walk me through that process.
So there's two parts of it, right? There's the first one is to find good borrowers, which, you just gotta have to go out there, go to meetups, talk to people, say, hey, I'm a private money lender and this is what I do. And then on the other side, you have the lender because there's only so much money I can have because there's so many businesses out there that, after 3 transactions, your money's gone. So you need other people that have capital, sit in a bank for nothing. And I tell them, hey, I have deals that you can get paid 10%, double-digit returns, and you come in with me and I'll underwrite the whole deal for you, walk you through the whole process, and I bring more lenders in. So I have a list of lenders and they tell me how much money I have. But all of this is going out there, building relationships.
Yeah.
They like, know, and trust you. It's so important. And then from there, when the borrower send me the deals, there's a little bit of a learning curve when it comes to underwriting, fix and flip. I do a lot of fix and flip. I underwrite the deals, make sure it's a good deal, make sure, everything's great. So once I see a deal, I see this is a good deal, I get the lender and we're all in agreement. I open escrow with the closing attorney and then everything happens there. Like I used to draft my own promissory note back then, and then that's not the way you should do it. I mean, if you need it, you can do it, but I send to the attorney, they double check everything. We do a security deed, to mortgage. That's what it's called here in Georgia. And I put the lender on the entire paperwork and I usually get 2 points or 3 points, depending on investment. And that's it. And the whole process, I'm the one checking with the borrower.
Yeah.
I'm making sure the business plan is being done.
Yep.
I get on a FaceTime or I walk into the property to make sure all the money for the draws for the rehab are being executed.
Yep.
And everything. And I talk to the lender. So everything, I've been doing this for 2 years. I had to foreclose one time. And a lot of people get scared, and I was scared too. But once you know the laws, once you have the right people, it's not scary. But what I tell everybody, private money lending can be passive, but there's a learning curve that you need to learn for you to be able to do it on your own.
Yeah.
But it's amazing. Like in the summer, I went to Greece and Paris, and I was able to close loans out there.
I love
So
it.
I was able to make some money to pay for my trip. And it's amazing. You can kind of see like, okay, this month I want to do 5 loans. Maybe this month I'm busy pursuing other things. Let me do 2. Once you build the business, it's amazing. You can decide how much you want to do it.
That's very interesting. So as a private lender, you are lending your money out. Your loan is secure by a hard asset. right? Your loan is secure by the real estate that you're lending on safely in the first position, right? Which means that if something were to happen, your money is secure by that hard asset and you can take that asset. It depends on the rules on each state. So each state have different process with that foreclosure, but essentially your money is secured by the hard asset. Typically, when we do private lending, right, the lender is also on the insurance so that if something were to happen, right, the insurance payout would also go to cover that loan. And then there is that due diligence, right? You need to vet the borrower, you need to vet the property, you need to vet the business plan, you need to check on it to make sure that everything is going to plan. So there's two routes that you can do this. You can either do all of that by yourself, or you can do with someone like Christiane who can actually do all these due diligence for you. She will vet the borrower. She already had a network of deal. She essentially will make sure your project is on track, and that will be as passive as it can get. You get really high interest rate and then that's it. You don't have to vet anything whatsoever. So if time is a concern, private lending, especially with a broker in between, would be a great fit to keep building your wealth while you focus on your business, while you're working on your family. So I love that. Tell me a little bit more about who would be a great fit for private lending and who might not be a great fit for private lending. Is there a minimum amount that you typically want to start aiming for when you first start working with potential private lender, and who might not be a good fit for this investment model?
We usually work with people, if they have for EMDs, you don't need a lot. So as little as 5,000. What I do the most is private money lending, which is a 6-month loan. So those are require, at least 30 to 50,000 because we can always get two lenders to be in the same deal, and then we work out the liens. I always tell people, if you want to deploy your money, make sure that you're going to sleep on your pillow and you're going to be okay with that. Because if you're not, don't do it. The first time that you do your first deal, it's going to be like, oh my God. And then you see the money returning, and then that's it. That's it. And then, I tell people when they're first starting out, they want to get into real estate. This is the easiest way to get to real estate, especially if they have somebody like me that can help them in the beginning. They get to learn, how do I underwrite a fix and flip? What is rehab? What is hard money lender? What is all these terms? That's a nice way for people that want to start out doing real estate, but they don't want to do it right away themselves. So they can be into other people's projects. Which is wonderful. A lot of my lenders want to do that. Or people that say, hey, I wanted to learn and I want to learn enough that one day it's passive for me. So those are people that I usually help.
I love that. Private lending is a form of investment. And with any investment, there's always risk involved. You try to de-risk as much as possible doing the due diligence. You're trying to work with people that have track record, that know what they're doing, but understanding, yes, it is a risk. No matter how small that risk might be, there is still a risk involved. So it's great to tell people up front, right? Like, hey, if you cannot stomach the risk and you're losing your sleep, there's no point of doing this. You're doing this to build your wealth, to make sure that you have that peace of mind. So if that's not the case, that's definitely not a good fit, right? I also love what you said about that this is a great fit for people who may want to eventually either do this by themselves or even just consider even investing in real estate, like doing the active piece of real estate themselves. By lending, right, you actually get a peek behind the curtains of how the numbers are run, of how the deals are going, of how construction, what's the timeline, what all these issues they're running into, right? Those details aren't available publicly, but if you're lending on the deal, you actually get to know about it. So it's a great way to learn why you're earning interest on your money. So that's a great point that you brought up for sure.
That's a good hack. You can get close to the deal as much as you want.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, awesome. I really love how much you share about the private lending, how people can actually do it themselves completely passively by having someone as experienced as you in their corner, right? Tell our listeners how they can get in touch with you and how they can know more about what you're up to and how they can learn from you about this private lending.
Yes. So my Instagram, I'm very active there. I'm posting a lot of stuff as far as my real estate, my entrepreneur, this pivoting, but it's Christiane_loan shop. I want to also let you guys know that I'm doing a 2-hour workshop on how do I become a private money lender and a foundation of the private money lending so people can see, okay, is this for me? They wanted to know more. So all the questions that I get from the people that I help, I want to put there. So please follow me and DM me. I would love to talk with you and getting to know everything about your real estate.
Oh my God, do that. I will put all the information in the show note. Go follow her, learn more about private lending because this could be a great way to help build your wealth. Thank you so much for being here with us, and thank you so much for sharing your wealth of knowledge. And I can't wait to hear more about your growth in the real estate world. Thank you
All right.
again.
Thank you.
Bye.